Hi, everybody. I'm Neil from Your Gray Matters. We have an amazing episode this week. Ieden Wall, recognized as one of Canada's great media, TV, and radio leaders, an acclaimed poet, an amazing man who talks about his life and his career. We even get into a very interesting discussion on human relationships. I just got, there it is, his book, The Wisdom of Wall. I did not know that I enjoyed poetry until I read some of Ieden's poems, and I had to buy the book. Thanks for viewing today. We're excited. Have fun with this. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil from Your Gray Matters. We're glad to have you again this week. And whether you have gray hair or no hair or red hair, but come on, we know what's under there. We appreciate you being here. And this week, we have someone really special. I am excited to have Ieden Wall on the show. Ieden, welcome to Your Gray Matters.
Hey.
Thanks very much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that this show is about miracles and solutions that exist, but you may not be aware of them. And we asked Ieden to come on because Ieden has done things that are amazing. He's inspiring. He's an educator. He's certainly one of the top media guys around. He has his own TV show. He's been on the radio. He's an acclaimed poet. And I learned to say about him that he's not just groundbreaking. He breaks down walls. That's why he has this name.
Hey, Neil.
Yeah.
Neil, before I really appreciate the introduction. It's tremendous. But I wanted to tell you, at the risk of interrupting your great introduction, I wanted to share something with you from my personal life. May I do that?
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. So my dad, who is a self-appointed menswear guru, he's always busted my balls because he says that my collar always is uneven, right?
Yep.
So just for the record, and you can back me up on this, Neil,
Okay.
that when you button down the first button on your shirt, irrefutably, one is going to fall lower than the other. It's a law of nature. Am I right?
It is. Are you telling me that my collar's lower than the other?
So I wanted, that's my way of saying hi to my dad, and it's amazing being in a Jewish family because the whole family's full of TV producers who have yet to produce their first second of television.
Well,
but they're all mavens at the art of producing television. Well, it's tremendous to be here with you today. I follow your podcast and I think you do an amazing job. And I'm really glad we can, cut out the time today to get to know each other.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Ieden. This is a real pleasure. And, I worked for years in Jewish community, and I learned quickly if you put two Jewish people in a room, you're going to get three opinions. So I get the caller thing for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about Ieden Wall. I hope that you're all familiar with them, but if not, you'll be more familiar with them in the next few minutes. I'm going to read a little bit of this because there's so much, but I have to tell you that he's a best-selling poet, and we're going to talk more about that today. He's a comic, as you just learned 2 seconds ago with the caller. He's a funny guy, but he's a serious journalist. He's a TV host. He's been on radio, and he's just someone who we're all lucky to have in our community. But he's amazing because at the age of 19, he got going. Rogers actually hired him, and he was a street reporter for them. And he had a segment called Off the Wall, which became really, really popular. He won an Ontario Cable Award for the work that he did in
when
reporting.
You say Cables Award, it makes it sound like I was pulling cable in the trucks, but I definitely was never cut out for manual labor. But the way you say it sounds so much better. Well, hey, Neil, this is an interesting fact. Yeah. Stephen Kersner, who created Ed the Sock, the voice and creator producer of Ed the Sock. Now, he was the person who hired me on Rogers at 19. And coincidentally, as life would have it, now he hosted a Jewish program on Omni, which was before Omni, I think it was at CFMT. I forget what it was, but he hosted a Jewish show. And often I talk to him about the perils and obstacles and, all of the inherent and varied challenges of doing a Jewish show, which I know we're going to talk about. But, big shout out to Stephen Kirstner, because he hired me and he ignited, the flame inside of me that is going as strong as ever some 30 years later. So, let's get into it.
Well, I got to tell you, thank you for telling us that, because that's a great piece of info. We're going to keep that one in. In the 1990s, Ieden actually created, wrote, and produced a reality comedy web show called The Dream Chaser. And I'd like to hear more about that show. I know that you were supposed to get it onto Fox, but somehow it didn't happen. But it had a brilliant mix of humor and humanity.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. Although I have to tell you, when you bring up the topic of The Dream Chaser to Ieden Wall, it's, you're opening up a whole can of worms in the process. It was, I'm not exaggerating to say that it was a full-blown obsession. It consumed me. It consumed my life for, well, geez, the good portion of my adult life, if you can call me an adult. I was just so enveloped by this idea. So you say, how did you come up with this idea? That was your next question.
It was actually.
See,
tell us, stay on this.
See, I'm doing both jobs here. It was a very personal thing for me, Neil, and I know you've had these moments in your career because you've done so much for other people, the community, and you continue to. But this idea just flew into my mind, kind of in a moment of deep melancholy and desperation. I was struggling. I was 19. I was struggling as a comedian and a host, broadcaster. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was somebody who could show up in my life right now and just take me to the top, make my dream happen for me. Somebody who believed in me equal or more than I believed in myself. And that's the power of the Dream Chaser concept. Now, I know that some people were a little confused at first with the humor, because when you're putting humor into a show, sometimes it can taint or confuse the sincerity of the show. But then people started to click onto it and they started to see the humor was just my way. I am a comedian by, at the core of who I am. I love to make people laugh. And, the idea of this guy that was going to ridiculous lengths to make the dreams come true. And I mean, ridiculous. Like, I don't know if you saw any of my episodes, but, there were a few rules broken, Neil, a few laws that were skirted very gently and delicately. Did you see any of my episodes?
Actually, I'm just starting to watch that part of your career now. I've been focused on your book, actually.
Jewish. Yeah. So just to tell you, in one of the episodes, I'll send you this when this podcast is done. But I actually went into a hospital disguised as a doctor to bust somebody out of the psychiatric ward to pursue his dream. So, there was no limits, whatever it takes. And it was just a great project. And I appreciate you mentioning that, because I've moved on, definitely moved on. But, there is that thread in everything that I do. And even in my interview, and you might have picked up on this, that I'm always very much aware and cognizant of who's in front of me. I don't do any pre-interviews. I don't script any questions. I just look at them, look at them dead in the eye. I feel their energy, and I see what are the blocks in them that I can identify in that moment. What are the deficiencies? What is the pain? Because we're all in pain, right? We've all had trauma in our life. It's a really, really tough world. I don't care who you are. We're all just barely, skirting through the traumas of our life. But I always try to offer, a moment of healing and a moment of reprieve, a moment of clarity, a moment of insight. And I received that back from them. So my interviews, very much like you, are just amazing conversations. And, so I suspect that it'll be that way today with you and I.
Yeah, and actually, thank you for that, because I learned to become a dream chaser about 30 years ago officially. I remember when someone actually explained to me what a dream is. And so
So what is a dream?
So first of all, I live by a saying that one of my mentors taught me, that said, if your dream is big enough, the facts don't count. Go for it. And the dream for me is just the realization of a worthwhile opportunity that I want to achieve no matter what it is. And I know that it's a good dream if it scares the hell out of me, to go for it, like having a podcast a year ago.
Yeah, well, you're doing absolutely tremendous with the podcast. And I wanted to say to you, I know we spoke on Facebook and I said this to you, but I want to say it to you face to face that for many, doing a podcast and public speaking is one of the greatest fears that can land in their heart and in their minds. They're dreadfully terrified. Yeah. I was always the exact opposite. When I got in front of a camera and the red light went on, I actually felt, whew, wow, I can relax. Finally, I can relax, because in real life, I was a nervous wreck. So I've always been, suffering from dyslexia in the most omnivorous forms. But, I wanted to tell you that you're developing. I watch you every week, and it's amazing how your skills are developing, and you're turning into a tremendous, tremendous host. And I think everybody has their own unique way, and it's up to us to push the limits of that special way that we have. And you're doing that. But I wanted to ask you, if I may, and I know I'm turning the interview.
I'm loving it. This goes where it goes.
I'm turning the interview around on you, because what happens, Neil, often when I'm interviewed, and this is happening right now, and I apologize for this, but often what happens is I will turn the tables ever so quickly and take over the interview. And if that happens, which it seems to be right now, I always say to people, grab onto a supporting beam, say your prayers, it'll be over soon. Okay?
Well, actually, I pulled one on you.
Here's to looking at you, kid.
Hey, man, I pulled this over on you. I actually wanted to be interviewed by you, so I'm just going to sit back and do nothing.
Okay, so don't do anything. And let's go with the flow, because life has its own flow. And I think that that's where a lot of interviewers go wrong, is that they come in very, very prepared, but everything is so stilted and calculated and premeditated that they don't give way to the natural flow that is waiting to course through the screen, to course through the airwaves. So I'm going to ask you something. You mentioned that you know what dreams are, and that you had a crazy dream to have your own podcast, which is great. You made that come true. But what is the one dream that has dreadfully terrified you that you have not done yet? Think about it.
I will have to think about it, because I'm pretty bold.
Is there one thing, Neil, that it's not easy for you to admit on the airwaves, but you couldn't summon the courage. You just couldn't summon the courage.
Well, I'll give you a part of an answer, but it's not the full answer, because I'd have to think about it. But yeah. I've gone up in an open cockpit biplane from the Second World War, and I've flown upside down. But I didn't have the guts to go up in a plane and jump out of it with a parachute.
Okay. Now,
that is a dream that I haven't hit yet.
Okay. So a guy like you, thrill seeker, bold, very much into challenging his own fears. What was the block? Why haven't you done that?
I don't know, actually, Ieden, and I'm waiting now for the summer to come back to challenge myself to do it, actually. I wanted to convince myself approaching 70 that, maybe I'm too old and not healthy. But the bad news is I'm in great shape and I do a lot of good stuff. So
okay, so here's my proposal to you.
All right.
And I wasn't here to identify your fears and your dreams today, but what we've stumbled onto it. what if you and I make an appointment to go up and we do a jump from a plane together, and we tape it, we put it on my show. Is that
Done deal.
okay?
I love the idea. I
Yeah.
love it.
By the way, I know this seems dreadfully bad etiquette and very rude, but I asked my housekeeper, Philomena, to get me some water. I said, I'm doing a podcast now with Neil. And no, I'm not joking. This is no joke. She brings this for me. Like, what the hell?
No, but this is great because this is like my first sponsor I can go after now for the show.
Yeah. Yeah,
The advertising.
Yeah, Neil. Yeah, that's it, Neil. I'm courting Tropicana.
Ieden,
Here's my pitch. Here's my pitch.
Go for it.
Here's my pitch. Nothing elevates antioxidants quite like 10,000 grams of sugar.
Exactly. It's like sometimes I'm glad I'm diabetic. You go ahead and drink. I'll just talk. I'm enjoying this the most I've ever had. Thank you. This is the way my wacky conversations normally go. And but I'm going to say very quickly, though, Ieden, if I can, because there were a couple of things that actually deeply affected me when I was researching you.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you have an issue with reading, and so do I. And I've learned in my pursuit of my dreams, actually, to learn to read. But because of just the way my mind works, and it's a great mind, but the written word doesn't get from the eyes to the brain so easily. So I've read every book 5 times. And then eventually it gets there, and I've improved over the years. But I found when I was reading about you and reading some of your poetry and listening online to it, I was absolutely mesmerized. I want you to know that that's from the heart. And
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And you know, it's interesting because you do focus on your show, and you know, we have this wonderful long talk about your bio, but I'm going to pick from it because the genius in what you've contributed to our community through your life is absolutely amazing. And to pick up on what you said, when that red light goes on and you're having a ball, and my best fun is being on stage or doing this podcast, but we're also sharing and we're giving people insight to us. And that's why I love doing this format, to meet people. But I want everybody to know that, I mean, you created a film in tribute to your grandmother called My Booby and Me. And that is absolutely phenomenal. And I've been trying to find a copy, but I couldn't find one. Not of your booby, of the video, I mean. And absolutely, congratulations. You love Kabbalah. And off camera, we're going to have a talk about that because I'm fascinated by it. You're a producer. You do on air, of course. You have great charisma. I happen to love Ten Tam. I've met Steve Couch, and you worked with him for quite a while. He's a fascinating guy. But I started to watch Canadian Jewish TV just around the time that I found it, but that makes sense, around 2019. Then I had my ups and downs with your show, with the Elevator Show. I thought it was brilliant, and I still don't know which is the best bagel in Toronto, but it's absolutely fabulous. And there's so many other things. Now you've relaunched it. It's a faith platform and phenomenal. But I wanted to ask you something, Ieden, if I can be so bold, meaning we'll get away from the banter for a minute. I'll ask you a question. There's a common theme that goes through all your work, and it seems to be about helping people. Comedy, seriousness, your poetry, the brilliance of the wisdom of Wall. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a book of Ieden's poetry. Mine will be delivered by Amazon tomorrow. But I'm encouraging people to look at it. So is that the common theme? Is that what you're actually trying to do, is help people? And where are you coming from?
Well, in all honesty, thank you for the great question. In all honesty, you know, you're asking me why healing is a central theme in all of my work. And that seems like that's the question, right?
Yes.
And the answer is because I'm trying to heal myself,
Uh-huh.
right? That's the honest, straightforward answer. I'm trying to heal myself.
Okay.
And I believe that whenever we do anything in life that is overt and is hyper intense and is hyperbolic, then we are tipping our hand that we are, in essence, trying to do that for ourselves,
Yeah.
right? That it's about us
Yes.
in our life. And so I would be disingenuous and not, forthright if I told you that I wasn't still trying to heal myself.
Sure.
I have, plenty of my own demons that I'm, every day I get up and earnestly and diligently try to wrestle to a bitter death, but still very unsuccessful. I have some years to go, hopefully, but, I can relate to those out there very, very closely who are hurting, who are in pain, who find themselves in vulnerable positions, who find themselves with little to grab onto, who find themselves with many numerous challenges and obstacles. And I just try to reach out to them. And that's my way of trying to heal myself and everybody and heal us all together.
It's a beautiful way of doing things, and I do fully understand what you're saying. From my perspective, I can't understand how you're feeling fully, of course, but bless you for staying on the journey of finding the answers that you're searching for, but at the same time helping people while you're on the road. That's good. I often say Tikkun Olam, but I also say Tikkun O'Neill. So I'm trying to repair Neil too. So I get it.
Okay, so
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this. So you talk about your bride, which means you now are on a precipice or a horizon, to use a better word, and you'll be getting married soon. Is that what you're saying?
No, I've been married to my bride for coming up to 25 years. We've been
okay. So that's the part
30.
Okay, so that's the part that I misunderstood when you kept saying my bride, my bride. Now tell me something. How did you know this was the right woman for you?
Well, if you want to know the truth, it actually felt right. And we met.
What does that mean? What does that mean when you say it felt right? What was the feeling? Where did you meet? Where did you meet?
Okay, so this is really interesting because Linda and I are actually in our second marriages.
Okay.
And we were introduced by a common friend
Okay.
because we were both having some interesting experiences and we needed a friend, and started out strictly as a friendship. And
Okay.
after time, it grew into a romance.
But I want to break this down.
I felt happy.
You felt happy. Okay, but I want to break this down.
Okay.
I want to break this down into, into micro portions.
All right.
So your friend calls you up and says, I have this woman, I have this friend, and I think that she's going to be somebody who's interesting for you or somebody who's right for you. And what is your immediate instinct? Are you scared, or are you thinking, okay, who knows? Who knows? Maybe something will come of it.
Well, actually, it wasn't for a romantic reason. Let's be clear. It was to strictly have a friend where we were both challenged with something. My reaction was actually, I'm into it. Yeah, let's give it a try.
But do you think, okay, you say this for friendship. Now, you're telling me you would have been content to just be friends and to be intellectually stimulated and find the companionship of a true friend. But at what point did you realize, wow, you know what? She's kind of cute. Do you remember? Do you remember the turning point?
Do you
remember the turning point? This is really interesting.
I don't know if I remember the turning point. It just happened naturally. And
well, but you say naturally, but this is fascinating to me because I believe that men and women, if one or more has an attraction for the other, that it will be impossible to just stay friends. Either one will be dissatisfied or both. And so you're telling me that you were completely open to just pure friendship. Is that true?
Yeah, by the way, we were both married at the time. So
Okay,
we
but
weren't looking for anything other than,
it's an Ashley Madison world. I mean, I'm not judging
not
you.
my style.
Okay.
Not
So
my,
now we have
well, or Linda's.
okay. Okay. So this thing happens very slowly, very incrementally. And you and her are starting to get closer. Now, by the way, this was the way my first relationship went.
Yep.
And I've never been able to have that since, Neil. We're stumbling onto something that's very interesting here. Stick with me, because my first relationship, now I was 20, she was 40. She was 20 years older, okay?
Okay.
I did not see her. She was a lovely woman, but I didn't see her romantically at all in the beginning. I couldn't imagine it. Okay, I just didn't see it.
Okay.
Now, she was my landlord. Now, think about this. She's living upstairs, I'm living downstairs. We start to spend time together. We have dinners. We go shopping. We do the yard work together. We start having a million small moments. Trust is being built, an amazing trust. We get to know each other on the deepest emotional, psychological, spiritual, every level but physical. Then, all of a sudden, it's unbelievable. But like you said, it happens so slowly, you don't even know it's happening. And that was the best relationship, Neil, I've ever had. It was so strong. And I attribute that to the trust, because it's true what they say. Trust will take you to planets and orbits you can't predict, in sexually and every way.
Yeah.
So, yet it's amazing. I learned that lesson, but I've turned my back on that lesson, because I've never.
Why?
Huh?
Why did you turn your back on that?
Maybe, but here's what a brilliant question, and here's why. And I'm sure other people listening and watching can relate to this. You know why? Right. Because the love I built with her, as slow and incremental as it was so strong and so all-encompassing. When it broke, I was so devastated I couldn't even breathe. My twin brother was trying to help me. I couldn't even breathe. It was so painful and so catastrophic. I've been dreadfully, dreadfully afraid of having that kind of pain again. So you know what I've been doing? Short relationships, never exposing myself to the possibility of that kind of humongous pain. So I don't know what to do. I know you're not a psychiatrist, but I'm asking you, but what do you advise me to do in this kind of predicament?
It's a long answer for you, this non-psychiatrist said. The pursuit of joy and happiness, something that's sometimes very hard for people to do, in my experience, because it envelops the one word that you said that is the biggest part of my brides and my relationship, is the development and the keeping of trust. And so I'm not sure how to help you. I don't know the answer, but I'm wondering if you're even having some interesting trust issues that disallow you to even start to reach out to people fully.
Now, what makes you say trust issues? Just lay it on the table, spill the beans, don't hold back. I can see the wheels. No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I can see the Neil wheels. Listen to me. I can see the Neil wheels turning. I can see that the light bulbs are going off. It's like fireworks in Brazil. You got to spill the beans here. Why are you saying trust? Just spill the beans. Why are you saying trust?
Okay, so here's the answer. I have no idea what to say, but I'm curious about what goes through your mind and what you're feeling genuinely. And just listening to your words, you said that you had a long trust and it was broken, and you're searching for why now you have.
No, the trust wasn't broken. The relationship broke.
Okay.
The trust wasn't broken, but I'll be honest with you, in my childhood and other times, trust was broken. So I do think you're kind of stumbling onto a very interesting theme here. And trust, yeah. Trust is, because I suppose you're right. If I felt that I could trust to a level that was close to 100%, I would subject myself to the chance of experiencing that kind of pain of the breakup again.
Yes.
So you're right about that.
Yes.
But it would have to be an incredible trust, you're right, to expose myself to the possibility of that kind of pain. Because when you break up from somebody who you're so attached to, and a lot of men, we don't get the credit we deserve, because human emotions are absolutely universal. They go right across the cosmos, and I think men have every bit as difficult time with breaking up with somebody they truly love. So it's a tough thing, and I hope it's something you never have to experience, and I don't think you will have to experience it by the sound of it. But what makes you say to me, Ieden, I don't think I'll ever have to experience that, because my relationship is so strong. I doubt that I'll ever have to experience that. What is it that binds you? And what's your wife's name?
Linda.
Linda. So what is it that truly binds the two of you together in this cosmic dance of the souls?
Total interest in each other's joy. I don't even hesitate in that.
Now, what does that mean? Break it down. You said total interest in each other's joy. In other words, her feeling good is put in front of your own interest to make yourself feel good. Is that right?
Well, that's actually your words, not mine.
What is your word?
My joy is from taking part in her joy. So my joy expands when her joy expands, and vice versa, Ieden. So if there's something that Linda wants to do, and we have our own circuitous route like everybody else.
Yeah.
We've found a way. And by the way, I don't mind sharing with you and everybody who's listening to this, finding the process of trust and the pursuit of joy, which we do. It's a part of our lives. Takes work. It is a circuitous route. For me, I can't talk for anybody else. I actually had to learn how to become joyful. I had to learn to understand that everyone, every individual is on their own journey in this apparent life of ours. And therefore, what one experiences in their journey, their pursuit of joy, if that's what they're doing, shouldn't be changed or modified because of what I think that they should go through. So Linda and I have developed a real interest over years, and training and reading. Reading for me is hard, to learn how to even be of a great benefit to each other, more than the importance of love and relationship and the bond and trust that we have. But it's being interested in what we're both trying to do in our life. So when I became a podcaster, Linda was jumping right in to help, and that was not insignificant to me. When Linda has now pursued a change in her career path because a car accident 6 years ago took away her life, not her life, God forbid, but what she was doing in her life that she enjoyed so much. 5 years of working through the healing of an accident, especially during COVID. So we learned how to keep living together.
Now,
but coming out the other end.
Right. And I have a question for you, Neil.
Yeah.
What that car accident sounds like a very traumatic time for Linda and for you. Sure. as an extension of that, given the fact that your empathy and love for Linda is so great. What do you suppose that experience taught you, and how did it change the love you have for Linda?
Yeah, well, I don't know that it changed the love. My love just grows every day. So the thing is, the experience, when hard or when joyful, we had both, because we created that.
Yeah.
Was we decided to make it, and people will find this hard to understand, and that's sad for me. But every day, no matter what we went through, and we went through some tough times, some easy times, was part of coming out the other end. And we just accepted that.
Okay,
And
but
so it's a higher level of thinking
yeah,
and learning.
I got a question for you. It
I
seems
know.
like you are madly in love with Linda still.
Oh,
That's the impression.
not a
That's the
question.
impression I get.
Yeah.
And that's inspiring to me, and it's amazing after 25 years, and it's inspiring that you got a second chance, which when some people don't get a first chance in life. So this is all great. Here's my question to you, just thinking off the top of my head, at the risk of taking control of this interview, which is
Oh, you did a long time ago. It's okay.
which is probably a foregone conclusion by now. But I'm wondering something. If you were writing, just work with me here hypothetically.
Yep.
If you were writing the dating profile of Linda, well, stretch for me here. Let's say you're her best friend. You're not her husband who's madly in love with her. You're her best friend, and she's now putting herself into the dating market. How would you describe this amazing woman in three or four sentences? Because she sounds very unique. Let's do this exercise together. How would you describe her in 3 sentences? That's
brilliant,
all.
brilliant, beautiful, and completely full of integrity. I don't need sentences.
But why is integrity so important to you? The way you slowed down when you said that and put such emphasis
I stumbled on the word. Sometimes I stumble on words not good for.
No, I think there's a reason for that. Why is integrity so important for you?
Can I ask you a question, by the way, as we continue on this?
Yeah.
I'm Jewish. I answer questions with questions.
Yeah, and I take over interviews.
So you have Tropicana and I have coffee, and both are orange. The thing is, the development of a relationship is worth it or it isn't. Each of the individuals will decide. But the decision to pursue a relationship is individual. It's both. And for us, we decided at some point in our friendship to pursue something else. So when you ask me what I think of my Linda, I get up every morning and I look over and I go, oh, she's still here. That's good. And then I say, I am blessed and highly favored. And that's how I start my day on many levels. I try modernity, but it's not working.
But do you believe, Neil, that we could love, like some people don't believe in soulmates. Some people believe that we could actually love or fall in love, develop a meaningful love with many different people, and that it's really more about us, not about them. So all we really need is a strong, warm connection on multiple levels and the commitment and the time to grow the love. Do you go along with that?
The thing is, Eden, I believe that people have to do what's right for them. What Linda and I have is what's right for us.
No, but I'm asking you, do you feel that love is an emotion or a commitment?
Love's an emotion to me, but out of that, we've made commitments.
Right.
And so now.
But couldn't the emotion grow as a result of the commitment?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that because our love just grows every day. So,
well, let's think together.
Neil, you see
all these arranged marriages, and the divorce rate is astonishingly low. I look at the Jewish arranged marriages. I look at my Indian friends. I look at my Chinese friends. The arranged marriages have an astonishingly low divorce rate. Why is that? I mean, these people develop incredible loves. They do not get divorced. It's not just because of shame, the shame of getting divorced. Their love grows so strong that they say, we're going to overcome everything that comes our way. So do you believe in arranged marriages or not really?
Well, as a matter of fact, none of mine have been arranged except maybe from above. But the truth is, depending on the culture and depending on what's the belief system where people come from, sure, why not? Why not?
But have you thought about why the divorce rate is so much better?
I've never thought of it. I didn't know that. That's the truth.
Well, it's true. It's about 15 to 17% lower. That's very significant.
So are you looking for someone to arrange it?
And that speaks to the theory that I just said, that love might be more about the commitment than the actual emotion, which is very fleeting and can change at any given moment. You know, our sages tell us, be careful of the heart, it can mislead us.
Yes.
And you're saying to me, no, you're challenging that. You're challenging 3,000 years of our sages' brilliant wisdom and saying, Eden, no, there's an emotion first. There's an emotion first. And that emotion is what sparks everything.
The only thing I can tell you, Eden, because the only way I can answer it is with what I believe, is that I'm in a great relationship with Linda and vice versa. So it's worked for us. I can't comment on what works for anybody else. And in there lies the challenge and the beauty of developing relationships.
So then what would your advice be to your son if he is struggling finding a partner, which so many people are struggling right now? You know, we have all these dating apps. It's crazy. We have all this social media. And, you know, most people are staying single because they have too many options. They're overwhelmed with all these options. They're completely disconnected from the people that they're talking to through technology. They're increasingly spiritually disconnected from themselves. And more people are single. So what would you tell your son as he embarks on dating for marriage? What would your advice be? You'd say, son, this is what you need to know.
I have no idea. I only know that he's engaged.
But no, but hypothetically, you got to work with me. Work with me.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and I'm thinking quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. If is your question asking me what are you looking for in a partner?
No, I'm asking
you even
you.
strike
Okay,
out?
let me rephrase this.
All right.
Work with me here, because I noticed in the course of this interview, God bless you. I really love you, and I'm enjoying our stream of consciousness here together. And but one thing I've noticed is that your brain is much different than mine, where when things get outside the structure for you, outside the structure of the interview and where you want things to go, that you go and you drift into territory that's a little bit uncomfortable for you. Whereas for me, I can't stand structure. So I do everything in my power.
I could see. Actually, I am a guy who likes structure and very comfortable outside of it. Actually, out of the box is good for me. The interesting point of this is, and it's just my own natural inclination, is you've come to me with a series of questions of things that you're struggling with, trying to sort out in your own relationships. And I actually don't have the answers for you other than being fascinated by what you're telling me.
Okay, but you're fascinated, but I'm coming to you searching for more than fascination. I'm coming to my Uncle Neil, my great Uncle Neil. Great.
Now we're relatives.
Great in the sense that you are performing at a high level with the podcast. I'm coming to my great Uncle Neil and I'm saying, Neil, Uncle Neil, now give me the advice. Because yes, I'm searching. I've been in several relationships and I'm trying to figure out like how I'm going to get married and have kids, which are still my goals, hopefully not too late. So I come to Uncle Neil and I say, give me some insights that you think can help me to find my life partner and to break through this pattern that I've been ensconced in for many years now, going from one relationship to the next. And your advice to me would be, Eden Schmieden, here's my advice.
Well, if I was your uncle, I'd know you better. But so are you aware of what you need in a relationship? And are you open?
Yeah, okay.
Wait. It's part two. The uncle's speaking now.
Yeah, go ahead.
And are you open to understanding the needs and requirements of a different person? And are you committed to helping them enjoy their life?
That's a very good question. In other words, you're saying, Eden, maybe you should worry first about the needs, their needs.
No, your needs come first, period, full stop. But in the body of your needs, does that include your personal requirement to consider other people's needs who may become your mate? That has to make you feel good or not good. That's up to you. And
Okay.
that's where understanding the need, their need, is actually your need, or it's not.
Okay. I'm going to be completely, what's the word here? I like to find the right word at the right time. If you know nothing about me, anything about me, something about me, know that. So I want to be completely self-effacing. That's the word.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you something. Here's the pattern with me, Neil.
Yeah.
I find an unadorned innocence being very attractive. A woman who can keep things simple, because as you might have found out in the last few minutes, I am anything but simple. And so I look for a woman who can naturally balance my complicated personality. Great. I find that person who's a simple, straightforward person, and I feel like, wow, this is a really nice balance. But the one thing that inevitably, invariably, they don't have, to no fault of their own, because they are more simple-minded, they don't have the ability to have that intellectual conversation that I might be looking for. And then that's what makes me nervous when it comes time to make a long-term commitment, because I think that conversation, as a wise person once said, that conversation is the bedrock of a relationship. Would you agree? I mean, I can just imagine the conversations you're having with Linda every night before bed, like deep, wonderful, meaningful conversations. Is
I'm
that
certainly
true?
going to have one tonight after today.
I got to drink my Tropicana to that.
And I got to give you, only because I could keep you on for hours, but you gave me a
I got to drink my
timeline, and
Tropicana.
we're pretty close on the timeline for you. I'm happy you're staying on all day.
Tropicana. It's going to be the next sponsor of Canadian Jewish television, J Weekly Canada. You know, before you ask your last few questions,
Not
and
really
I really,
true. Yeah.
And I hope you don't think I'm giving you a hard time today. I really just love to explore a stream of consciousness wherever it goes. And I think you've stumbled on to some great insights for me about love and dating. And I've also stumbled onto some interesting insights about you, about this need to adhere to a hyperstructure. And when you're pushed out, I've pushed you outside of that a little bit, and that unnerves you a little bit.
Really? Oh, okay.
It makes you a little bit uncomfortable, and I didn't want to do that. But
I didn't, in all honesty, I didn't know that you did, but
okay, great, because I was worried that maybe I pushed you outside of your comfort zone today.
Hey, we're on the air, pal, but I want to tell you something in all honesty, Eden.
Yep.
I struggled a bit only in that I'm going to assume that the questions that you're asking about yourself and what you're seeking is not for comedic purposes on this particular episode of Your Gray Matters. And by the way, if I'm your great uncle, that's spelled Greyt. So I actually wasn't having any problems being outside of a box. I was struggling with being respectful of what's important to you. And even in this podcast, in this format, if you ask me a question and it has to do with your own happiness, I'm interested to not play with that. So if that is being uncomfortable outside the box, then I'm okay with that, because I was taking seriously what you're saying to me. And see, now I just brought this down to thump.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
But it is
you didn't.
Truth.
No, you didn't. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. This is absolutely wonderful. And you're telling me that the reason why that you might have appeared uncomfortable is because you were being seriously thoughtful about where I was coming from, and you didn't want to play with the seriousness and poignancy and importance of the issues that I'm bringing to the table.
Exactly.
And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And I think that that's, a thoughtful podcast host. I often guise humor, right? I guise humor. I use humor to guise things.
Yeah.
But as you know, beneath humor, beneath all comedy, is something very powerful.
Yeah.
I've often, thought about that. But I value your experience. I value that you've been in a great relationship, and so I really sought guidance with the right intentions. Though you're right, there's nothing you can really tell somebody else in terms of how they can pursue their happiness,
Correct.
because only they will know when they're happy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do as time is running out here, I wanted to do a shout out to my co-host, Susan Manouk. You've watched her on the program, and I wanted to say that she's been so instrumental in the progression and advancement and evolution of the program. We're up to 130,000 people a week on television.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. And that's, a mature kind of, boomer audience predominantly. I'm not going to lie about that. We're still trying to figure out how to reach, younger Jewish viewers, but in no small measure has she been responsible for the success of the show. And one of the lessons in life for me that I realized, hopefully not too late, is that you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. No one's an island unto themselves. And I guess because of some of my early childhood traumas, I was always an independent force, sometimes too independent for my own good. And she's been a great partner in crime. And I wanted to say hi to her and thank her for throwing herself in front of the camera. She's a print journalist by trade, throws herself in front of the camera, and we're now into season number 4, and she's doing a tremendous job, and I really appreciate her very much. And I know you mentioned you like watching her too, because
Linda, I want Susan to know that I watch and enjoy, and Linda's a huge fan of her interviews.
Yeah, she's just so graceful and so well comported, and so she just carries herself like a true professional. And God, the show definitely needs more of that.
Wow. Listen, you two are strong together, and you do a service to the community by producing what you do. This podcast is fantastic to me because I did have questions that we prepared, and I have my own questions. And here's the interesting comment to you. I love going out of the box and doing this. And I love just talking with people, because I have a ball getting to know people and getting to know you. Wow, what a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. And but I think that in taking control of the interview, I feel that maybe I left out one of your power questions. So do you want to leave us with one final question, or are we out of time?
Well, I have all the time in the world, actually.
No, I have about 5 more minutes. So do you want to just end with one of your penetrating questions?
Well, actually, I wanted you to talk about your poetry. And here's the reason why. I've never really been into poetry until this week. I heard you recite The Big Bang. And I invite everybody to look for Ieden's book, The Wisdom of Wall, because his poetry is phenomenal and penetrating, and in my mind, brilliant. I'll let you make your own decision, but you should have a look. But when I listen to The Big Bang and I listen to I Cry, they're very, very moving poems. You also change your delivery, which is very different than from what we've seen in this podcast. And I wanted you to comment on these poems and any other ones that you've done, because I found them so moving that I had to put this in the podcast. And I'd ask you to comment on your poetry and what I've said.
Well, thank you very much for that. People ask me, why all this poetry? Why this serious poetry, lyrical poetry? Some of it's very, very intense, as you just pointed out, like very intense.
Oh, yes.
And I always say, comedy, poetry, pretty much, if you strip it down, they're two faces of the same coin, really, because underneath comedy is
Of
the
course.
poignant poetry. And The Big Bang, which you just mentioned, is one of my favorite pieces too. Some people thought it was a little bit pompous to play the master and creator of everything, the creator of all universes, because I assumed the voice of God. And I created The Big Bang because I wondered how God would defend all of these people who say, well, the Big Bang started it all, and that takes away the notion of God. And I always thought, okay, what if there is this mysterious explosion, the Big Bang, that was a precipitating force of everything we know today? Well, certainly that doesn't take away the notion of an omnipotent, omniscient God who loves us in a wonderful way and cares for us in a very profound way, each and every one of us, and has a very, very close, mysterious relationship with each and every one of us. And so that was the inspiration behind the poem. And I'm really glad you liked it, because it took me 6 months to write that poem.
I thought that it's funny because it took God only like 6 days, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta pick things up. There's no question about that. I gotta pick up my game here.
Ieden Wall, I gotta tell you, this is a pleasure, and you're a pleasure, and I'm thrilled. I'm just really thrilled. I have to say it twice. That was a great experience, but I want to, from the bottom of my heart, commend you for what you're doing. Ask you, if you're joyful in this journey, to keep going on this journey. For sure, invite me on your show, but definitely keep going, because you are making a difference. You did mention it's like 30 years since Omni had a Jewish show on. Your show is making a difference for a lot of people. I hear your show talked about on the streets. I do.
Now, last question, Neil. This is a very important question. I know
I've enjoyed being interviewed.
I know you're getting very nervous. But
Okay,
Neil,
I'll assume the place.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, if I do get a sponsorship from Tropicana,
yes,
because I've introduced the notion that I'm courting Tropicana as a sponsor on your podcast, does that mean I will owe you like 4 or 5% of the deal? Like, what are the legal implications of this? I'm asking you.
Well, if you watch my podcast, you'll know that last week I had Ira Greenspoon, my lawyer, on.
Yeah.
And I'll be consulting him right after this podcast.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight, Neil. You're gonna be consulting your wife tonight. You're gonna be consulting your psychiatrist for sure tomorrow, and you're consulting and you're consulting your attorney. Is there anybody that you're not going to be consulting over this train wreck of an interview?
Actually, no, I'm just going to let the viewers enjoy it. And that's good enough. And I would drink Tropicana orange juice. I love it, but I'm diabetic and I'd rather live. I wish you only the best with it.
We've spiced things up with the moonshine here for sure. But thank you. On a serious note, I wanted to say thank you very much for inviting me today. It was a lot of fun. And thanks for your support. Doing a Jewish program, Neil, is not an easy thing. I'm not sure why, the community does not jump behind Jewish media vehicles so readily. But it makes it more challenging for guys like me to make this happen. But, I appreciate the support wherever it comes from. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And all I can say to you is keep going. If it turns you on, keep going. Take care. Thanks, Ieden.
Take care, man.
And thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next week. Ieden, you're the greatest. Take care.